disciplines personnel, I call into question as well. Because I know Marcus Murphy, when he finally got another opportunity, had a poor decision when it came to trying to catch that ball on the 2-yard line when the kick was going out of bounds, right? Then you go, and then after he makes a mistake, you slap his hands, right? Drew Brees has thrown too many picks from time to time. I haven't seen him get into him on the sidelines. I haven't seen him say anything to Drew Brees about his performance, because everybody loves Drew Brees, right? I love Drew Brees, but sometimes Drew Brees may need to be disciplined from doing the things he's done, some of the decisions he's made. I know this may not be popular with the Who Dat Nation. What I'm saying is that there's inconsistency. You cannot tell me you're going to have a consistent person if it's Tommy Lee Lewis or if it's Marcus Murphy or Jarvis Bird. All he does when he gets back there is just catches the punts, right? You can't tell me you're going to have any sort of consistency with these young guys if you don't allow them to continue to play. You cannot keep juggling from one to the next, one to the next. Oh, I don't like he caught the ball funny, so I'm going to have Hightower back. Oh, I don't like him, so I'm going to put Cadet back there this time. I don't like how Cadet, so I'm going to go with Jarvis Bird. It's too inconsistent. Too inconsistent. And how he disciplines players is too inconsistent as well. I mean, if you're going to say to Mark Ingram, okay, you fumbled at inopportune times, well, having Drew Brees thrown inopportune interceptions for us at critical junctures in the game. So he is inconsistent, not just in the play calling, in his talent evaluation, as well as his coaching of the players. And hold on. And when you stated his record in the past several years, I did a quick percentile there. That's a 59% winning record. That's losing. That's a failing grade. So therefore, I mean, I can't say he's not a great coach because he has a Super Bowl ring, but I'm saying right now he may not be a great coach. What are your thoughts?
His percentage is, like you say, it's 39%. And I stated this before. I stated this last night with Rev and Brian, that being in leadership for the years I have been through business and my experiences in corporations and, businesses, if I treat any of my staff members differently, I'm going to have an HR problem with the whole team. And one of the things is something I've always said. And when I found out about the Brandon Cooks situation and all of that drama, I said, here we go again. The Saints got locker room problems. And what is showing up when you have a team that plays schizophrenia like this is that you have locker room issues. And it may not nothing be publicly, and we don't need to know publicly. With any locker room problems there, it needs to be silent. I do not agree with Brandon Cooks talking to the public. But when you observe one player treated this way, one treated this way, or this one treated this way, I know from my corporate experiences, I know also from even being a minister of the gospel in churches I've worked in. When the pastor has got favoritism and the other elders or the other ministers feel slighted, it creates dissension and strife. And it may be unspoken dissension and strife, but if it festers long enough, then you start hearing murmuring and complaining. Then you start hearing more murmuring and complaining from the rest of the leadership team. Then ultimately, you have what Brandon could get. Somebody lets what's going on in the brotherhood slips out to the media. And so when you're seeing the situations where the rest of the team is held to one standard and Drew gets held to another, now, of course, he's not going to bench Drew. Let's just forget that because He does not have anyone nearly comparative to comparative. And he may be behind the scenes, letting Drew have it that we just don't see, which is a good thing. But unfortunately, Drew is 37. Most of the cats he's working with now are millennium, they're around Deuce age, they're younger. They don't understand that.
Hey, now, calm down, Professor.
Not you so much, dude, because you are very mature, but they don't understand that. Maybe he's talking to Drew privately, but maybe he needs to, on that, like that lame duck pass Drew threw, at that point, he needs to chew Drew out right there in front of the team, and maybe that would then, curtail people feeling like there's preferential treatment. The Hall of Fame quarterback can make mistakes, no penalty, but the minute I fumble, the minute I make a mistake, I'm back on the bench. And so that's something, once again, an intangible that Coach Payton has to address in a fairly manner.
Okay. Deuce, your thoughts?
Well, I think everybody knows, I say it enough, so I hope they know. I try to stay away from anything that I can't see, take away, tear apart, understand, and teach and learn from film and stats. So I really try to stay away from as much of that as I can. Now, I will say this, because even myself, and I've talked about this before, I'm 27 now, just turned 27, and still feel like when I look back 2 years from now, and even when I was still 25, I don't realize how much I've matured. It's shocking to me, to look back and say, man, at 25, the decisions I made in this situation were so bad, what I would do differently. And if I go back to all the way to 22 and 23, which is what a lot of these first and second year players are, and I look back, I'm like, man, I was just a baby. And yet I'm 27. It's not like I'm a lot older. So there's a huge, I'm not sure if I would call it a big leap in maturity. I'm sure that, anybody can look back a couple years and say, yeah, there's a lot that went on but it's just, I think for a lot of them, it's not just the maturity aspect, but it's the situation that you're in when you're in the NFL. You're now a young man. One, you're being given a lot of money. Rookies aren't given the money they used to be given, but somebody would have handed me $1 million at 22 years old. That would have been difficult for me to handle. You're put in a spotlight of fame. You're put in a spotlight of expectations, where now you're expected to reach a certain level based on what somebody, literally tons of somebodies have said about you that you've never met, who've made entire, articles and videos of what they think you should be and how you should do it. And for a lot of people, it hits them one or two ways. One, they either get the big head about it, and for some people, they're able to do that without becoming narcissistic. And then other people, they just swelter under the pressure and can't handle it. And it's definitely a maturity process, like the professor is saying. I try to stay away from specifics because I don't know these guys personally. Like, I don't know Brandon Cooks personally to know his character, to whether or not, like some people have suggested, he nudged his agent to put out feelers for trades and for future money arguments, things like that, the type of business move, or maybe his agent was telling him to do stuff like this. I don't like to touch that because it's such speculation. But I will say that being a young man now and being not too far off from a lot of these guys who are first, second years in age, I mean, I'm the same age as some of them. I mean, Delvin Breaux, when he first came in the league, me and him are the same age because of the experiences that he's had. So I'm still kind of there. I understand that maturity argument. And I got to say, when you're in that position with all that money, all that expectation, and you're in that national spotlight all the time, I can see how people can react differently and it not be the correct course of action. But I think you just got to have somebody in the team that takes them under the wing. And for me, I said last night that if Brandon Cooks, as an example, is really going through that type of situation, a perfect example of a player who was in that spot but handled it very well is Mark Ingram. Because love or hate Mark Ingram has never been backbiting. He's never come out and talk bad about the media or the Saints or fans, and fans have certainly given him enough backlash. He sat for 3 years behind Pierre Thomas waiting for his chance. I mean, he stayed quiet and stayed humble, and now he's been given an opportunity. He's shined. He's made the Pro Bowl. He's had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons offensively. And I think, other players need to have that same type of mentality, and it's fine. You can be outspoken. Michael Thomas is the replacement for Marcus Colston, but he is certainly not the quiet storm. He is the loud thunderstrike. He is very vocal on Twitter, social media, but he's also not out there putting out team problems out in the open. And I think that's what you got to have to kind of curtail and make sure that you can control, keep that in-house, and that's where that maturity has to come through, because I'm sure Mark Ingram has had plenty of times where he just wanted to go off on fans, or he wanted to go off on media, or even some of his teammates, but we've never heard about it. At least I never have, to my knowledge. So it's that type of idea that I think, that paradigm that everybody in the NFL, especially the younger guys, have to adopt. And it makes for a healthier environment in the locker room. It makes for a healthier environment in the media, because now you can actually be asked questions about football and the slant route you ran instead of the, is it possible that you're going to trade Brandon Cooks this offseason? So that's my take on it.
Okay. I know on Fox Sports they had a similar article starting to say that there are cracks appearing in the black and gold locker room. Roy Anderson, for Fansided, the Who Dat Dish, he wrote, I don't know. I don't know if there's cracks starting to appear. I think there's some cracks starting to appear in the play calling of Sean Payton, and it's been appearing for the past 3 years. People don't want to admit it, but the consistency is not there. I think just step back, Coach. That's my opinion, and I knew you can take me to task on this. But the execution, guys, you see, I don't know if it was a lack of energy. Some people say there wasn't a lack of energy with these guys, but I noticed from that first possession, there was just like, I've seen this picture before. After all of my years of watching the Saints and being a fan of the New Orleans Saints, I saw that picture before. And you could just tell something was not quite going to go well that day for the team. So, all right. I mean, we can speculate, like you said, all day long. It doesn't really going to help the Saints, but I believe one thing that can help these guys is to kind of see if you could just do what you do best at all times. Right now, what we do best, you have two prime running backs. You have Hightower, you have Ingram. I know Ingram's toe was giving him some problems, but that tandem is a powerful tandem. We need to utilize them first versus utilizing Drew first. And I don't want to take away Drew's stats. I don't want to take away his limelight, but I believe in a game that's going to be with a heavy pressure on him from the likes of those guys up front with McCoy and that young man, Noah Spence, who's just doing a tremendous job lighting up the NFL. That Tampa Bay defensive line is going to come for Drew Brees. And we've got to do something to negate it, and it has to be the run. So that's just my opinion on what's going on with the Saints right there. Now, I need to address this as well. It looked to me, and I love Delvin Bro. Delvin has been on our show. It just seems to be, ever since Delvin has come back, he's not totally 100%. My question is, if he's not 100%, why haven't we seen more of Ken Crawley spelling Delvin from time to time? Deuce, I want to throw that to you. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think that just comes down to the fact that a injured or not 100% Bro is simply better. And, I mean, similar to how we, and I guess it kind of bit us in the butt, but how we did with Keenan Lewis. An injured Keenan Lewis, where he played through some of his nagging injuries, was better than the other cornerbacks that we had on the field. And we can certainly see that Bro is not the same person that he is when he's healthy. He got taken apart during the Lions game for the most part. He's really hasn't been himself all year. So I see what you're saying, but Also,
do you really
not
believe
to
Ken
knock
Crawley
the other
wasn't
guys,
that good? Yeah, I mean, I'm just asking this question. I'm sorry. Do you really believe Ken Crawley isn't that good? Because I'm looking at the performance of Moore.